What's up, everybody, and welcome back to A Beer a Day with TK. It's a warm evening here in Findlay, Ohio, and the Ginger Yeti and I are hanging out in the beer shed, getting ready to check out a new beer. Now, the beer we have today is called Geisterzug, and this is the Rhubarb Gose variant. And this is from, the brewery is called Freigeist Bierkultur, and they are a German brewery. I don't think I wrote down the city, but it says brewed and canned by Urban Chestnut Brewing Company in St. Louis for Freigeist Bierkultur. So I guess I don't know if they shipped the recipe over or what they did.
Do you know what Geisterzug means?
Geist means ghost, doesn't it?
And Zug is train.
Ghost train. A very menacing beer. Now, if you look at their logo, it's like a little ghost. I had a bunch of their beers years ago. I think I may have done a review on one of their beers over the last couple of years.
Have you?
Yeah. I told you, I used to be able to get these pretty regularly at the Chief. Wasn't it great? It was a Chief in Lima. The one over by Lima Central Catholic, if you know that one over by...
Oh, yeah.
Over by Outskirts Brewing. They used to have a bunch of them. And they were always bottles, though, so I've never seen it in a can. This is a first. And I think all the ones I had were sours, like fruit sours. So pretty interesting. Now, rhubarb. Do you like rhubarb?
I can't say. I know I've had it before, rhubarb pie. I want to say I was somewhere one time where somebody had fresh rhubarb, but that would have been years ago. It's kind of like they would break off a leaf of it, almost like celery. You eat it, but
I had it growing in my yard over there.
I can't even tell you what rhubarb tastes like.
It tastes like death. It's terrible. It looks like celery. It was literally growing in my yard. It tastes like, it looks like a celery, and the taste is kind of like sour and gross. I don't like it. When I was a kid in England, rhubarb was, I guess, like a popular flavor. Like you'd have rhubarb and custard treats and stuff. I was never a big fan of rhubarb. My father-in-law loves it, eats rhubarb, just eats it, which is gross. But I don't. It's a divisive flavor. So for that reason, this is a perfect WTF Wednesday beer. So for those of you who are unaware, WTF Wednesday is the one day a week when I showcase a beer I normally wouldn't. Sometimes I do stuff from big boys like Bud Miller and Coors. Sometimes we try interesting offerings from smaller breweries. More recently, we've been trying to get them passport stamps up with international beers. So this kind of falls in like one and a half of those categories.
Well, yeah, because when I get to the reading of the back of the can, and we'll talk about it in a minute, it says it's from a brewery in Germany, but you already mentioned earlier, it's brewed in the U.S. for a German brewery. Now, on the back of the can here, I don't know what some of you brewers are thinking, some of you label artists are thinking, whatever. This is micro font, and it's white font on a gray background. And generally, when you're somewhere drinking beers, you're not in the best lighting in the world.
Even if you were, this is damn near illegible.
So why would you make it so hard to read your description? You put all this time, effort, and thought into the description. Why would you make it so hard to read the description on the back of the can? So I'm going to struggle through this. Plus all the condensation is making it
You might be better taking a picture and blowing it up. That's what I do sometimes because it's so damn small.
Freigeist is the experimental offshoot of Cologne's revolutionary small brewery. Brastella? I think I said that right. Brastella? Here we strive to break the chains of industrial brewing by reviving and updating Germany's unique historical beer styles.
Gose would be that.
Man, the condensation is killing me here. Based on Freigeist ancient spruced Gose
there you go.
recipe, Geisterzug Rhubarb features all the complexity, funkiness, and body of the original. So apparently there's an original recipe of this. But goes one step further by adding tart and flavorful real rhubarb juice during fermentation. So I read that like, I can't say how I read that, but that is so hard to read. This white lettering on this white gray background. Come on, guys.
Now, they seem to suck at can verbiage placement, but this beer seems to be really good. 5.2% ABV. Couldn't find anything on the IBUs. Untappd 3.78. Beer Advocate 4.1. 91 outstanding. So, sounds like a good beer. Like I said, I used to drink their beers years ago when I lived in Ada because it was a lot easier to go to Lima. They were a little expensive for me back then because I think I was still in law school and I didn't have much money. And I would get one once in a while. They might have been they were bigger cans, maybe like a 20 ounce or bottle rather. And you know, like the big, what are they, like the Schneider Weiss bottles? They were kind of like those.
Okay, yeah.
And I think they were maybe like $8 a piece, which was quite expensive back then for me, especially. But this looks alright. It says Rhubarb Gose, beer with rhubarb juice, salt, coriander, and spruce needles. So, sounds interesting.
So if you can remember, before you open it up, because we got to talk about the price.
$4.60.
So if you can remember, what was expensive to you back then?
Well, I mean, anything over $2 or $3 was probably expensive. I used to drink
and
the
now we're
Foster's-
buying
$4,
$5 can, 16-ounce cans of beer.
like a norm.
And that's not expensive anymore because of the inflation on beer prices. In back in those days when we were first getting into craft beer, we were just doing law school, whatever.
But back then we were students, brother. It's different. We make more money than we did then too, though. I guess. So, I mean, that's different.
But you would see, I'm not going there, I'm saying you would see the higher end beers were only $5-6 a beer.
Yeah.
And now the low end beers are
Five.
not saying it's a low end beer, but
Average beers are $5.
average beer is $5-6
yeah.
beers.
Yeah.
I picked this up at the world famous legendary Rosie's Wine House,
Rosie's Wine House in Lakewood, Ohio. Check it out.
which hopefully one day they'll give me a sponsorship.
That's right, Rosie's. Hook your boy up. The Yeti knows, bro.
I've probably paid their rent a couple times with the amount of money I've spent there. That's not the color I expected.
I was expecting more of a little bit of a purple hue or something.
Exactly. Yeah, that's definitely not the color I expected.
Now, I will say this. Every beer I've ever had from these guys before was fire, so I expect it to be good. Now, the only thing that's changed, this is weird for me, is the brewed in St. Louis bit.
Right.
Color-wise, it's like gold with like an orangey kind of hue.
It's very light colored.
Is it maybe like
I mean,
5? Yeah, 5. Deep gold, a little bit of an orangey hue. Head looks magnificent. I mean, that's a thumb's worth of
Super fine bubbles.
glorious
But there's
white
like
head. It's not going anywhere, brother. Look
no
at that.
super fine bubbles that are just kind of
If you're a fan of the lacing swirls,
mixing into big fisheye bubbles.
You see a bit. Just give it a sniff. It's so
Oh,
hot. So hot, this
what
is
is
sticking
that?
on my arm. Probably rhubarb.
No, that's different.
That's some funk.
Maybe that is the rhubarb, but that's different.
It is rhubarb. I do not like. I do not like rhubarb. It's like a funky.
That is a wild scent.
Well, it's like a funky, soury kind of nose. I don't mind it.
But there's something else in that scent that I can't. I mean, it's almost
I'll tell you this.
perfume-like, but not in like an offensive way.
It's probably the spruce needles. It's probably the spruce and rhubarb mixing together.
No, because I like gin, so I like spruce. I'm familiar with spruce.
What do you think it is? I mean, it says rhubarb, salt, coriander, or spruce needles.
I mean, maybe it is the rhubarb, but I'm just not familiar with the rhubarb. But that's
Rhubarb is like a funky, fruity smell.
maybe that is the rhubarb.
Floral. I mean,
Because I'm not familiar with rhubarb, so maybe that is the rhubarb. I mean, that's almost perfume-like quality, but not in a offensive way.
yeah. As in a hey. All right.
Well, I had a beer the other day that I reviewed on my channel, and I sniffed the can, and the can straight up smelled like the perfume counter at Macy's or something, or Kohl's, wherever the old ladies go to buy their
Prince's bedroom. I understand.
their terrible perfumes that are pervasive and ruin a room. And the can smelled like the perfume, but the beer didn't. So this is different.
On a quick side note, my mother used to wear this perfume that I despise. It used to make me sick. And whenever we'd go anywhere, she'd be like, a fucking cloud of it on her, you know? And you'd get in the car, and she'd put the heater on, and I'd be like vomiting in the back seat. And she'd be like, what's wrong? And I'm just like, the combination of the car heater and your perfume makes me want to die. It's the most offensive smell of all time. I don't know why, it just made me think of that. Yeah, all right. Ready?
Yes.
Prost! Now, as this is a Gose, and I'll say Gose to not anger any of the Euros, first things first, I'm probably jumping way ahead of the game. I have the salty finish, which seals the deal for
Absolutely.
me. It's a proper Gose.
Absolutely.
There's nothing more I hate than when you list your beer as a Gose, and all it is just some kind of fruity beer. And there's nothing remotely sour about it. There's nothing salty about it. There's none of the characteristics of a Gose other than it's fruity.
See,
I will like, what the hell, dude?
I will half disagree.
Why?
If you list your beers at Gose, 100% agree with you. If you list your beers Gose style,
fair enough. You can do what you want.
do what you want.
Fair enough.
And this is so whatever that smell is, which must be the rhubarb. I need to now go get some fresh rhubarb because that flavor, whatever I was smelling, I immediately taste. I mean, it tastes like what I smelled.
Now, body, medium. It's not too light. It's got decent body to it.
And it's got a weird silky carbonation feel.
I get that. Yeah.
It's not like a
like a Guinness
super
Nitro or something.
But no,
like,
but it's also not
smooth.
like a overcarbonated
like the last two
carbonated water.
Like the
no,
Honduran
like you know, you get some of those waters in Europe that are super carbonated.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like that. It's just this weird silky carbonation feel.
Now, as to the flavors, the rhubarb, I think you do pick up the fruity, sour rhubarb.
Absolutely.
Thing. And I think this is actually lip-puckeringly sour, unlike a beer that's just slightly tart because it's got some fruit. This is properly sour, so this will get a Bismarcky.
100% agree.
I don't think I've given out a Biz in quite a while.
This is funky.
Yeah.
For
Funky.
sure.
Sours I quite enjoy. Now, I don't want to drink a dozen of them in a row. You know what I mean? Like, they're nice, something to break up the pace of the other beers. But I want my sours to be sour. And especially if you're out there, a lot of brewers, super sour, blah, blah. Like, the Warheads are the worst series of beers I've ever seen. Whoever greenlit that project needs to be thrown off a bridge.
Who was that dude in Cincinnati that does beer reviews?
My boy Jay.
Who?
This guy's thoughts. Jay's out of Dayton. He's out of Dayton. He did one the other day, I think. He did a...
did the seltzer one.
I saw it pop up. I don't know if I saw it yet, but I did see it.
But he also does beer commercials?
Yes, yeah, that's Jay. Yeah,
he does the seltzer. He did one of the seltzer ones, and we were talking about that. I'm like, man, I was so disappointed in the Warheads. Like, if it was a sour, dropped off the Warhead, would have been an okay beer. Because of the fact it had the Warhead's name on it, I'm like,
see,
super disappointed.
I don't even think the beers were remotely sour.
No, not at all.
I thought they were sweet with a tiny, tiny bit of tartness. I thought they were trash.
Right.
I mean, I think we did a review on one in Bash Telling. It wasn't very good.
Right.
So, for me at least, if you're saying you're going to be sour. And if you're going to be a Gose, actually have the salty finish. Do what you're supposed to. Do your homework. Make the beer what it's supposed to be. I guess I'm different than you. Gose style's bullshit to me. Like, I get when you're dealing with the regional stuff, right? Like, so you can't say you made a Kolsch because you're not from Cologne, right? I get it. So you say Kolsch style because it's, all that geographically protected kind of nonsense, right? I'm with it. But if you say you're a Gose, dude, it ain't that hard. Just deliver the few things it's supposed to have. But they don't. And for the life of me, I can't figure it out. That's enough of that ranting. Do I think you get the rhubarb, the fruitiness? Yes. Do you get the saltiness? Yes. Do you get the coriander? I don't know that I pick up the coriander that much.
I don't know if I do either. And like I said, I'm not familiar with rhubarb flavor, but if that's what rhubarb tastes like, that is spot on rhubarb.
Yeah, it is. I've had enough rhubarb flavored candies in my life, unfortunately, and stuff like that it's like that kind of rhubarb taste. And I've had rhubarb, unfortunately, before. I'm not a huge fan, but I don't mind it in this, sadly. It's I don't like real rhubarb, but I don't mind it in this. The spruce needles.
No.
What I had expected was the spruce needles to add the bitterness or something, maybe. And I don't think you get much of it.
Well, see, before you said spruce needles, I was going to ask you if rhubarb has a little bit of bitterness to it.
Yes.
So then is that little bit of bitterness from the rhubarb or is it from the spruce needles?
I would say rhubarb. Now, I have had spruce beers before. I think, wasn't Pennsylvania Tuxedo
I think so, yes.
And you could taste like the spruce needles in that were almost like a hoppy kind of thing. Like, how you have like a piney hops?
Right.
But had a nicer taste. I preferred the sprucey taste to like a piney hops taste. So maybe it's here at the end and we're just not picking it up because of the sourness and the saltiness is maybe kind of, blurring the lines there or dominating it. But I don't get the spruce needles as much. The coriander, not as much. Sea salt, yes. Or salt, yes. Rhubarb, 100%. You get some nice funkiness. You get the saltiness. I think it's a good beer. Now, it could be I'm not picking them up or whatever it is. But for me, I think Geisterzug Rhubarb, thumbs up. I like it. I'm surprised.
I mean, maybe our palates aren't refined enough to pick up the spruce needles.
Yeah, could be.
But you hit it right on the mark. I mean, this is an excellent beer. Very tasty. I mean, like I said, somebody who's not familiar with rhubarb flavor, it's a really nice flavor. I mean, the salt, the sour.
I mean, my mouth, I'm getting like, you know what I mean?
Yeah,
like,
I'm sitting
that
the salt, the sour, the funky.
fruitiness.
Like,
yeah, it's working.
it's really good. I give this a big thumbs up.
This was a 91 outstanding for a reason.
Yes, it was. Absolutely.
So, awesome beer here from, hopefully I can pronounce this correctly, I always want to say Geist. Freigeist Bierkultur. You guys killed it. Excellent beer. Really enjoy it. Thank you for sharing this with me, my brother. And I would definitely have another one of these. Now, hopefully you liked the video. If you do, give us a thumbs up. Hit that like button. If you want to see more videos like this, please hit subscribe. I have a link to the Yeti's channel down below as well if you want to check him out. Does a lot of cool videos on the road. He travels with heavy metal bands all over the country, all over the world. And when's your next tour coming up?
End of July with Whitechapel in Europe.
So he'll have some European videos coming up.
Hopefully.
Excuse me, I'm guessing in August. So end of July, August, check him out. If you've had this beer, let me know what you think about it down below. Like I said, I used to see these regularly, but only there. And I don't think I've seen them in probably a couple of years. But I don't really travel down that way anymore. But I'd love to see more of these guys. I think they're good. They do really good stuff, and I'm thrilled to be able to try it. So, if you have any comments or questions, jump in down below and, let us know what you think, man. Hey, till next time, cheers.
Cheers.
I like that one.
I know.